Good morning. I should be cutting my grass today, but it is raining, and so I have just decided to do this project here. I've been putting it off for a little while. It's a tiger bark ficus. I took the wire off and just kind of gave it a heavy prune back in February and decided I would see what would happen if I let it grow for the summer. And here in Florida, if you let one of these trees grow for the summer, they will do, in fact, just that. A lot of it, too. Go all the way around like that. And basically, I'm just going to go ahead and get to work here. I usually pull all the weeds out before I bring it in. I got some of the bigger weeds out, but it did start raining on me, so I had to kind of get it in real quick. I'm going to go ahead and finish getting the weeds out here. All right, the weeds are all out of there. Tried to move it in just a little bit closer here. The plan is to completely defoliate, give it a hard prune, and get some wire on it. I'm going to have to address this branch here. I'll worry about that when I get there. I definitely want to get, it's the one regret I have about letting it grow all summer is it got way too thick to kind of get it down without doing something drastic. But the first thing I want to do is get out any obvious branches I'm going to take out, twigs, if you will, just simply because you don't want to go through all the work defoliating branches you're not going to keep. Alright, so I did start taking off all the growing tips as well. And again, just before I start defoliating and everything, one thing I did just want to kind of point out on these, on this type of tree, let's see how far I know I'm going to be going down. On this type of tree, it just seems as if they'll get some pretty long shoots, and then out towards the end, they'll start getting more ramification than back here, which I think happens with all trees, but I think that just these grow so quickly, they get big clusters at the end once they get that momentum going and everything. And so I'll be cutting some of the growing tips again back to a thicker branch, just again trying to hold on to some taper and everything. Really hard to see unless you're doing a super long branch like that. I'll probably go back even further with that. That's why I just kind of did that now. And then the other thing I'm going to do, and it might actually even help me see things a little bit better, just even to start off with, is you can't see it from this side, and you may not be able to see it at all right now, but there's a big chop scar right on the opposite side of this. And there is just one branch coming out of the top of the chop scar. And so that'll be one area where I'm going to try to not cut any growing tips. I'll probably take out a couple twigs that I don't want and everything, but I'm going to defoliate it. And I think maybe once I do that, that might kind of just give me some sight on what I'm doing down here. Sometimes I'll look at it and I know that there's just all kinds of stuff I'd like to take out. Hard to see with all the foliage. So I will start with that and then just kind of maybe take another look from there. Again, there's that chop scar I'm talking about. Alright, and now when I go to wire it up, probably get a good little movement out of the apex there and try to leave some of the little twigs. I took out a couple of branches that were growing in the crotches of other branches. And so I'll just leave these up here for now. I may just decide to kind of come in and cut the rest of those tips off once I'm done. Actually, right now I'm just going to kind of sit back and take a look at it here real quick. Alright, so it took a minute just to look at it. Didn't decide on all that much other than I know I'm not going to be able to use this from here out unless I do something severe. Maybe take a saw and get it bent down. And then I'm thinking if I take the time to do that, I might do the same thing over here. One thing I've been trying to concentrate on some of these trees is getting, and this one was actually styled when I got it. It's the only tree I've ever bought that had any styling done. But is getting more, like say, up and down, side to side movement than just down movement on these figs. And of course these figs will start going straight up. I kind of overdid that, and if, you know, all of these branches are just kind of standing up. So I may do just this wedge cut, that wedge cut. I think I'm going to take off a couple of the bigger branches in the back. Really haven't quite decided yet. Maybe just, and again I'll get a better look at it once some of the foliage is off, but thinking maybe just this one here, and I think you guys might be able to get a better look at it when the foliage is off too. So other than the places where the wedge cuts would go, I'm just going to go ahead and finish defoliating it. Probably cut back for taper just a little bit more. This is, I'm treating a little more like a normal pruning. And then I may just decide to do some guy wires back here because I do have a lot of good growth. And even in even heading into August here, I mean we've got these will continue growing. Really, these will continue growing all winter long, but especially right on through November. Rainy season's finally kicking in, so it'll get a lot of that growth too. of the things I have decided is back here, I'm going to wire only the primary branches. And so I've been cutting them pretty good back for taper, leaving some of the twiggy growth. That way I can just kind of wire the main branches, and I do want to pull them down quite a bit more compared to what I was doing. And then again, just kind of let some of the twiggy growth grow and not have to worry about that wire cutting in so quickly. And then I think I may have even talked about it in the last video, all of these back branches back here, and then this one just kind of, the rest of them are all coming out of the trunk. A little movement, but just kind of coming out of the trunk radially, and then this one just kind of shoots off to the side. And I think I will go ahead and take that one out. Kind of opens it up a little bit. Should be able to see a little bit more too. I'm going to finish defoliating some of this stuff up here, and then get one last look at it, decide what to do with these bigger branches. Alright, so I think I have decided I'm going to do the wedge cut on this side, try to fix this a little bit with some wire. One thought was to go ahead and cut it off here and try to make this like the new leader out of that branch anyway. It's really small compared to it. It would take a long time to heal over. It does have these aerial roots helping it out. I should have waited like maybe another week or two. These are just about reaching the substrate there. But I think I'll try the wedge cut. I'm going to leave this in place so that if something happens with the wedge cut, I can still use it. You know, if I do have to come back and go ahead and cut the rest off, I want to get this thing kind of cut down to size some. Alright, and before I start doing any wedge cuts or anything, I did see this lichen growing here, and there's some soft wood around here. I think I want to kind of pick at some of that with a knife, and I don't want to jostle the tree around too much more once the wedge cut is in place. There's an arrowroot draping around over there, and I'd like to get maybe a chance for that to kind of thicken up some instead of on top of that dead wood, if you will, or softwood, if you will. At least try to get down to, I might not get down to live tissue, but maybe get down to something a little more solid. And then, just as I got a closer look, I've been letting some of this grow, and again, this area root's going straight. Like this one here is kind of bending off to the side, and I don't really want that. Either I want them going straight down into the substrate, straight down the trunk, or I'm just going to take them off. And then this one is one that I've kind of let go here. And it's just crossing the trunk there. And I don't think it looks very good. And then this one is crossing that root right there too. And those will die back on their own. And then let's get out the knife here. Well, actually, there's one more right there too in there. This root here. Oh, goodness gracious. And then let's see what's going on up here. Interesting. Let's see what kind of an angle we can get there. It doesn't seem to come where that aerial root there is. That seems to be solid, but actually it is not. Let's see then. Well, that certainly puts an interesting little spin on things. Dug out quite a bit of wood there. Couldn't really figure out a good angle to get it where you could kind of see me digging it out there. Barely even noticed there was an aerial root coming from way up above my finger there. I guess it's out of the camera just a little bit, kind of trailing on down, and it was in that muck. I've left that there in the hopes that that's some life. Here's the aerial root growing way out of the pot. Go ahead and nip that off down here and maybe see if it'll just kind of straighten out in the pot some. Might just dry out now that I've cut it. This seems to be much more solid in there. I mean, remember, this was a clearance tree that I got, and part of it was like these will need some carving one day or whatever. So, but I am going to just open up the wound around the edges of it. Just trying to encourage some more close overgrowth. And I hope the aerial roots kind of help over here. That's a big gap on that side. I'm worried, but at the same time, I knew what I was getting into with the trees, so. Alright, so rough that area up around there a little bit. Gonna get to doing the wedge cut here. Let's see. So now, all right, and I think once I get the wire on here and I'll have that whole thing kind of stabilized, I'll get it down a little bit further. Alright, so off camera, I was trying to bend it down just a little bit, and sure enough, it broke. But I do get the idea that it's going to hold. But I was planning on wiring up some of these secondaries just on this branch here. But since it is kind of in a precarious position, I am just going to cut them back a little further than I originally had them. Hopefully there's enough buds out here that kind of bud out. There'll probably be a scar right there for a while. But I think if I get enough growth out there and I can kind of Alright, so I guess that's going to be that's that. Don't really like all these kind of coming out like that, just the way it looks right now. But these do have growing tips on them. So my idea here is that I've got the wire going up the apex. I left all that growth up there. And then that'll start biting in first because obviously I pruned everything else. So this really should take off, especially with these leaves left up here. As soon as I notice that bite in, I'll just take that off. It's anchored to this branch here. And then go on. These should thicken up a little bit. I left the growing tips, so they should also kind of grow out really quickly too. And be a little bit thicker than they are now. And then just go ahead and get wire on them as well. And then around when the rest of the wire needs to be taken off, they might all knead it together. Always kind of thought of that being the front, just kind of getting the look all around. Since I'll plant that repot in the spring, I was even looking. Sometimes it looks like this branch just kind of comes out over nothing where there's not much of the trunk there. Whenever I get it up, if I look and I see that there's not much of a, let's say Nabari trunk, whatever you want to call it, going that way, I may attempt to take that as a cutting. I don't know. This one too, but I never really wanted to cut that off because I thought it was kind of helping heal this wound up, which it is. So, I don't know. I'll just take a look at it come repotting time. If I was to kind of maybe cut that off, perhaps try to change the angle of it a little bit.